Welcome to Reddit Stories, where OP's parents are trying to make her buy her sister a house. Am I the jerk for refusing to co-sign my sister's mortgage after my parents went behind my back? I, 28 female, have been busting my butt saving for my own house for years now. I work in software and I've been careful with my money. I don't live fancy, but I make decent money and I'm proud of what I've built. A down payment for a house isn't something that just appears overnight. You grind for it. You budget, skip trips, and keep your head down until you finally get close enough to see that goal. So when my parents called me about a house near them and said that they had good news, I thought they had found something they wanted me to look at for myself. But I was wrong. They had already made an offer, but for my younger sister and without even telling me. Now my sister, who's 25, is still in grad school. She's got little to no credit, barely any savings, and no real job yet. Apparently, my parents found this cute little house near their place and decided that it would be perfect for her. They jumped right into the process, confident the bank would approve it since they planned to have me co-sign the loan. When they told me, I just sat there speechless. My mom was like, "You have the best credit score, honey. This will be easy. You just sign the papers and your sister can handle the payments." Then my dad added, "We might need you to help with the down payment a little, but it'll all work out." I couldn't even get the words out at first. They were serious. They had made an offer without me, and now I was expected to tie my name and finances to something that I didn't even agree to. And here's the problem. If I co-sign, that mortgage becomes my responsibility. If my sister can't pay, the bank comes after me. It would tank my credit and destroy my chance to buy my own house anytime soon. Even if she does pay, that loan would show up on my record, which could easily make a lender reject my future mortgage application. When I tried explaining this, they called me selfish. My mom actually said, "We raised you better than this. You're forgetting your family values." My sister accused me of abandoning her, saying I was leaving her stranded. And my dad? He hinted that they might reconsider helping with any future wedding expenses if I didn't help the family right now. So in summary, they made a huge financial commitment without my consent, and now I'm being guilt-tripped because I won't sacrifice my financial future for my sister's comfort. The irony is, they could have just co-signed themselves, but they didn't. When I asked why, my dad said their credit wasn't great, and they didn't want the risk. So, guess who they wanted to take the risk instead? Me. For a while, I even felt guilty. I started wondering if I really was being heartless. But the longer I sat with it, the angrier I got. Because this wasn't about helping family. It was about my sister's convenience at my expense. And maybe the next part will make sense of why this hit me so hard. I'm adopted. They adopted me when I was 6 years old. They had been struggling to have kids, and I was their miracle solution until they had their own. 3 years after I came along, my sister was born, their miracle baby. And from that moment, everything changed. Growing up, it was obvious who got the special treatment. My sister could do no wrong. She got the bigger room, the expensive camps, the newer phone, the louder applause. I was the one expected to be responsible, to help, to always understand. If she forgot her homework, I was supposed to remind her. If she messed up, I had to fix it. It wasn't always cruel, but it was constant. The message was always the same. She was the chosen one, and I was the steady one. So when this mortgage thing came up, I realized I wasn't being asked to help. I was being used again. Because I'm the one who's good with money, the one with the good head on her shoulders, and the one who doesn't say no. I love my family, but this time I just can't do it. I can't risk my credit, my savings, and my peace of mind just because they can't say no to my sister. So now the house deal is on hold. My parents are furious, and my sister is blowing up my phone calling me a monster. I feel like the family scapegoat all over again, but I'm standing firm. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You're not being selfish, you're being smart. Your parents and sister made a financial decision and then tried to drag you into it to clean up the mess. That's not family love, it's manipulation. If your parents think it's such a good investment, they can co-sign it themselves. But of course, they won't do that because they know the risks. They just want you to shoulder it instead. And the fact that they made the offer without even telling you first tells you everything you need to know about their respect for your boundaries. You worked for your credit, your savings, and your stability. You owe them nothing. And if they start threatening to withhold wedding money, let them. Honestly, I'd take this as a sign that it's time to set firm boundaries or even step back entirely. They clearly don't see you as a daughter, they see you as a backup plan. Not the jerk. This whole situation screams golden child versus scapegoat. Your sister's being babied into adulthood while you're being guilt-tripped into paying for it. Don't give in. If you do, they'll never stop using you as a safety net. And one more thing, lock down your credit ASAP. People who think like your parents sometimes don't stop at guilt trips. They find ways to help themselves using your name. Freeze your credit, call the credit bureaus, and make sure your information is safe. I know it sounds harsh, but protect yourself. You can love your family from a distance, but never at the cost of your financial future. Update. So I'm officially not co-signing my sister's mortgage. I told my parents flat out that I'm not doing it. I'm not contributing a single dollar to the down payment, and they need to stop putting me in financial situations I never agreed to. Their reaction was predictable. My mom started crying. My dad went into lecture mode about how family helps family. My sister stopped speaking to me altogether. It used to work on me. Those guilt trips, those long and sad phone calls where they'd make me feel like I was the problem. But something's different now. I've just hit my limit. I started looking back at every pattern in our family. Every time they said I was so mature for my age, what they really meant was that I could handle more responsibility. Every time they said I was so lucky to be part of this family, what they really meant was that I owed them for it. So I've decided to take this as my line in the sand. I'm cutting ties for now. I'm not blocking anyone, but I'm done playing the role they've written for me. I've started closing any shared accounts, checking every bill with my name on it, and making sure my finances are mine alone. My next paycheck is going straight into a new bank that they don't even know exists. My job's remote, so I've decided to move out of state. It's something I've wanted to do for a while, but now it feels necessary. I need distance. Physical, emotional, all of it. I've also frozen my credit with all 3 bureaus. Thanks to people who commented, I learned how to do that properly. Nobody's opening up anything under my name again. The hardest part is knowing that I'm not just losing parents, I'm losing the illusion of what I thought they were. It's a weird kind of grief, realizing you were raised in a family that only valued you when you were useful. But I'm not alone. My friends have stepped in ways that make me emotional just thinking about it. They've helped me pack, they've checked on me daily. One of them even said, "You're allowed to build a new kind of family now." And she's right. So yeah, I'm done. I'm walking away. I'm not co-signing, not rescuing anyone, not explaining myself again. I'm choosing myself this time. Update 2, 4 days later. I really thought the worst was over once I said no. But when I started taking everyone's advice and pulled my credit reports, I found something I didn't expect. An active credit card I never opened. It's been there for years with my name, my information, and their address. At first, I thought maybe it was a mistake. But when I looked closer, the billing statements told me the whole story. It was being used for household expenses, my parents' groceries, their utilities, and subscriptions. I sat there staring at the screen, realizing this card had been used for who knows how long. Not one late payment, which meant they had kept it quiet to protect the secret. It suddenly made me sense why they were so confident I'd co-sign. In their minds, my credit was already part of their financial plan. I texted them asking directly what this card was. My mom replied, "We only used it for family things." Then my dad chimed in with, "You benefited too." I laughed out loud reading that because I hadn't lived at home in years. I didn't benefit from their grocery trips or their new TV. That was the moment it fully clicked. This was theft. My parents had been using my name and credit as their backup wallet. So I made some calls. I spoke to the credit card company. Then I spoke to a lawyer. I started documenting everything, screenshots, emails, text messages. I didn't want to go nuclear yet, but I needed to be ready in case this got worse. Emotionally, I felt hollow. There's something especially painful about realizing you have to protect yourself from your own parents. I spent that weekend at a friend's house just to get out of town. My friends helped me go through everything one step at a time. We made a checklist. Dispute charges, close the account, lock down my social, set up fraud alerts, move as soon as possible. It's strange, but I didn't even cry. I just felt done. Like the part of me that kept hoping they'd ever change had finally gone quiet. So that's where I'm at now, dealing with identity theft from my own family, figuring out the next steps legally, and preparing to start over. Update 3, 10 months later. I thought this chapter of my life was closed. I had moved to another state, changed my address, opened new accounts, froze my credit, and even got a new job. I really believed the distance would protect me. But then this week, a letter arrived from the county recorder's office. It was about a newly recorded deed of trust. My name was on it, as well as my current address, which only a few people had. I opened the file, and there it was. My full legal name listed as a co-borrower on a home loan and a signature that was supposed to be mine. It was the same house, my sister's. I thought maybe it was some clerical error, but when I pulled the full record, it was all there. The loan documents, the notarization, everything. And all of it was forged. I wasn't even in the same state when they claimed I signed it. I called the lender's fraud department and asked for the electronic signature audit trail. The IP address used for my signature? My parents' Wi-Fi network. Shocking, I know. I then emailed the notary asking for clarification. She responded, and this part still makes my blood boil, that she saw me over FaceTime and confirmed my ID from a photo my mother had provided. She admitted that in writing. Now that is not a misunderstanding. That's a crime. So I filed a police report for identity theft and forgery. I attached everything, the deed with the fake signature, the notary's written admission, the IP logs, and proof I was in another state. I also filed an FTC identity theft affidavit, a complaint with the state notary commission, and hired an attorney. My lawyer said this wasn't just fraud, but deliberate, coordinated deception. They had used my information again, thinking I wouldn't find out. I sent my parents a cease and desist letter through my lawyer. All contact is email only from now on. No phone calls, no visits, not even for invented family emergencies. And I made it clear, I'm not giving them time to fix it quietly. I'm not protecting them so my sister can keep the house. If it falls apart, that's on them. They built it on lies, and if it collapses, that's their consequence. I keep hearing people say, but she'll lose her house. My answer is simple. If your roof depends on a forged co-borrower, you never had a house. You had a countdown. What your parents did isn't just bad parenting. It's felony-level identity theft. You've handled this very well, OP. You protected yourself, gathered proof, and went through every legal channel. Don't back down. They chose to burn that bridge. And your line about the house is perfect. That family built their life on a lie, and now they get to live with the consequences. You did everything right. Stay strong and keep every single receipt. Imagine finding out your parents didn't just guilt trip you, they literally took out a house in your name. Yeah, that's not parenting. That's grand theft, family edition. Am I the jerk for leaving one of my brother's kids out of a trip but taking the rest? I, 35 female, live and work abroad now, but I'm from the Midwest. My brother Jason, who's 43, and I grew up in a small working-class town where people didn't have much, but we always had what we needed. Our parents, who are in their 70s, did what they could for us, and we learned early to be resourceful. Jason got married right out of high school to Tiffany, who's 40, who at the time was, well, the kind of girl people noticed. She was wild, always out with friends, drinking, partying, living like life owed her a good time. My brother was the exact opposite. He's a dweeb, to put it nicely. Quiet, kind of a nerd, and honestly not ready for any of it. But she was pretty, and I guess that was all it took for him to fall headfirst into something that he couldn't keep up with. They had Jace, who's 19, Jeff, who's 17, and Hannah, who's 12. Their marriage fell apart before Hannah was even born. They tried patching things up a few times, but it was a lost cause. Tiffany kept drinking, kept disappearing, and when they finally divorced, Jason ended up with joint custody. After a while, he met Jenny, who's 43. At first, I thought she was good for him. She was steady, worked hard, had her act together. She wasn't flashy or dramatic like Tiff. I thought maybe he had finally gotten lucky this time. They dated for a while, got married, and before long, they had Daisy, who's now 10. That's when everything changed. Jenny quit her job and decided she was going to be a stay-at-home mom, but only to Daisy, not to the 3 kids Jason already had. She didn't even pretend to care about them. Jason started working longer hours to make up for the lost income, And from that point on, it became clear that Ginny ran the household. Every decision went through her, and Jason's backbone went straight out the window. The older 3 kids eventually stopped going to their mom's place because she was always drinking and strangers were coming in and out. Jason got full custody, but that just meant Jenny had to deal with kids that she didn't want. I live abroad now, so for a long time I didn't really see what was going on. When I'd visit, I noticed the way Jenny and Daisy did everything together. Dinners out, vacations, shopping trips, while the older 3 stayed home. It wasn't just once or twice, it was every single time. When I called Jason out on it, he'd say he was just trying to keep his wife happy because the divorce broke him and he couldn't handle another failed marriage. I thought that was pathetic, but what could I do? Years went by and I tried to stay connected to the kids. When they wanted to learn to drive, Jason and Jenny refused to pay for lessons, so my mom taught Jace herself and I bought him a used car. We even had to pressure Jason to put him on his insurance, which he eventually did, but only after guilt-tripping the kid into paying half of it himself. Jeff shares that car now and helps keep it running. When my wife and I got married 6 years ago, we decided that since we didn't plan on having kids of our own, we'd put the 3 of them in our will. They're our beneficiaries. It felt right, considering they had been dealt such a rotten hand. We also started taking them on small annual trips whenever we had come home to visit. Nothing extravagant, just week-long trips around the US. Hiking, beaches, road trips, things like that. The kind of normal memories that kids should have. We'd planned them during the same weeks that Jason and Jenny took Daisy somewhere, so nobody made a fuss about it. This year, though, things got complicated. Jace got an internship this summer, so we decided to move our trip to the fall. We chose Maine for fall colors, cool weather, small towns, and good food. I told Jason our plan just to keep him in the loop. He immediately said we needed to include Daisy this time. Apparently, Jenny's parents, who had always funded their family vacations, lost some money in bad investments. Jenny still hasn't gone back to work, and Jason's salary doesn't stretch far enough for their usual trips. So now that they can't afford their own vacation, they suddenly want Daisy to tag along with ours. Even if it was fair, I wouldn't want to take Daisy. I hate saying that about a kid, but she's a handful. Spoiled, loud, constantly bragging about what she has that her siblings don't. She said cruel things before, even telling me her siblings aren't really family because they're Tiffany's kids. I've seen her throw fits on holidays because she didn't get more gifts than the others. I know it's not all her fault. She's been raised that way. But taking her on vacation? No way. So I told Jason that we couldn't handle all 4 kids and would just take the older 3 like usual. He offered to have Jenny come help. That was an immediate no. Then he suggested our mom go instead, which is absurd since she's about to have hip replacement surgery. I told him the trip was already planned and we didn't have space for more people anyway. He got angry. They started vague posting about us on Facebook, making it seem like I was cruel for excluding family. Their friends and even some relatives took their side without knowing the story. My mom and dad, though, told me to hold my ground. The only thing that gave me pause was something my wife said. She asked if maybe we were just doing the same thing Jenny did, picking favorites. She said it's my family and my call, but she wanted me to think about what it teaches the kids. It hit me because she's right. Daisy didn't ask to be raised this way. Still, she's 10, and if I bring her, Jenny will use that as proof that she's right about everything. I'll be stuck dealing with her behavior for an entire week while Jenny gets to brag about Auntie footing the bill. So I'm torn. Part of me feels cruel for leaving Daisy out, but another part of me feels like this is about boundaries. Jason and Jenny made this mess, not me. Would it make me a bad aunt if I only took the older 3? Not the jerk. That money and those vacations are your gift to the kids who were neglected, not a consolation prize for their spoiled half-sister. You've stepped up in ways their parents should have years ago. You're not excluding Daisy out of cruelty, you're keeping the trip peaceful and fair. If Jason and Jenny cared so much about equality, they wouldn't have spent years excluding the older kids from everything. This isn't your responsibility to fix. You didn't raise Daisy to act like that. Maybe when she's older and can understand fairness and kindness, you can build a relationship. But right now, you're not punishing her. You're protecting your peace. And honestly, Jason sounds like he's emotionally checked out as a dad. You can't save someone who refuses to stand up for his own children. Update. I didn't expect things to blow up the way they did after that post. I thought Jason would either sulk and move on or quietly tell Jenny to drop it. Instead, they turned it into a whole family spectacle. For starters, Jenny took to Facebook again with another vague post about how heartbreaking it is when family treats innocent kids unfairly. Her friends flooded the comments with, "You're such a good mom," and "Some people just don't understand family." Meanwhile, she and Jason never once picked up the phone to talk to me directly. Then, one night last week, I got a call. It was from Jason's phone, but when I answered, I heard Daisy crying. She could barely get her words out. She was saying she was sorry, that she'd be good, that she wouldn't be rude anymore, and could she please come on the trip. She kept saying she wasn't a bad kid and that she'd prove it. It hit me hard. She's 10, and no matter how spoiled she's been, no kid deserves to be made to feel like that. I tried to calm her down and tell her she wasn't a bad person. I said her aunts loved her very much, that this wasn't about her. But before I could finish, Jason snatched the phone and said, "See what you've done." Then he hung up. The next morning, I woke up to another Facebook post about how some people enjoying hearing little kids cry. I saw red, but I didn't respond. I didn't want to feed into their drama. I reached out to my mom and my nephews to see what was going on. Apparently, Jason and Jenny had told Daisy that if she couldn't go on the trip, it was because she had been bad, that she had ruined things for herself. My mom told me Daisy's been crying for days. I started digging more because something wasn't adding up. Turns out, Jason and Jenny's financial situation is worse than I thought. Jenny's parents had been paying for almost everything: tuition for Daisy's private school, vacations, even part of their mortgage. But now that money's gone. I guess they told Daisy she had to choose between her school and the vacation, and she chose school. Now they can't afford either. It's awful, but that explains why they're so desperate for me to take her. From what Jeff told me, things at home are tense. Jenny spends most of her time locked in the bedroom, Jason's constantly at work, and the house runs on autopilot. He said Hannah's been staying with her best friend all summer to avoid the chaos. Jace's internship has kept him busy, and Jeff works part-time to save up for college. The three of them are holding it together, but I can tell they're exhausted. And yet, through all of this, Jason and Jenny still think they're the victims. For the record, I don't hate Daisy. She's a kid. She can be sweet, funny, even thoughtful when she's not in her parent's shadow. But the thought of dealing with Jenny for even a second makes my skin crawl. I know that if I take Daisy, Jenny will find a way to make it about her. She'll twist it into proof that I came around or realized my mistake. I'm still taking the trip with the older three. They've earned it. They deserve 1 week where they don't have to deal with their parents' chaos. As for Jason and Jenny, they can deal with the mess that they created. Update 2. Things have somehow gotten worse and weirder. I mentioned before that Jenny was still doing her vague posting routine, right? Well, one of her cousins reached out to me out of nowhere. I barely remember this woman. I think she came to Jason and Jenny's wedding, maybe a couple of holidays. She told me she needed to talk, so we set up a time to FaceTime since I'm on the other side of the world and time zones are a nightmare. She starts by telling me that Jenny and Jason haven't actually lost money the way they've been telling everyone. Her parents didn't go broke. They cut her off. Apparently, Jenny's been lying to everyone, even my parents, saying her parents fell on hard times and couldn't help them anymore. In reality, her parents found out what was happening with the kids and pulled the plug. Here's how it came out. A while back, Jenny complained to my mom that she was trapped raising her husband's 3 kids from his first marriage. She said it felt like she had a 16-year sentence. My mom, being my mom, didn't hold back. She said something like, "If having Hannah in the house is such a burden, she can come live with us." It was half sarcasm, half frustration. Jenny held on to that. When Jace graduated high school, Jenny and Jason told him he couldn't keep living there. He had to find his own place. They're planning the same thing for Jeff. And when Jenny's parents heard about this, they were shocked. They had been under the impression that the older kids were living mostly with my parents by choice. Jenny told them I was the one paying for the older kids' private schooling. Another lie. When her mom found out, she called Jenny and basically told her off. She said, "You can't tell an 18-year-old he's an adult and on his own while taking money from us like you're still raising kids." Jenny lost it, and that phone call ended with her parents cutting her off completely. The cousin said her parents had been giving Jason and Jenny tens of thousands of dollars a year, believing that they were helping with family expenses. They had no idea it was going straight to Daisy's tuition and vacations that excluded the older three. Her parents were horrified. They also realized that Jenny had been telling them that I spoiled the older kids and ignored Daisy. She made up stories about vacations I supposedly took the others on and left Daisy home crying. Meanwhile, I was literally the only one trying to treat all four fairly. Jenny's parents are done with her. They stopped answering her calls and refused to talk to anyone defending her. They told the cousin they had had enough of the lies. When I heard all of this, I just sat there in shock. It was vindicating, but depressing. Jenny's house of cards finally collapsed. She's working again, but she's been out of the workforce for 10 years, and it's not going well. I feel bad for Daisy. She didn't cause this, but she's going to feel it the most. I wish I could say this was over, but I doubt it. My mom's keeping an eye on things, and I'm staying in touch with the kids. They're tough, and they know they've got me and my wife behind them. But Jason and Jenny, they've made their bed. Update 3. It's been a couple of months since my last update, and a lot has happened. We finally took our trip to Maine. Just me, my wife, and the older 3 kids. It was perfect. Crisp air, fall leaves, cozy cabins, quiet lakes. No family drama, just peace for us and the kids. We hiked, went apple picking, stayed up late watching movies. For once, they got to just be kids. Jeff said it was the best week of his life, and that alone made it worth everything. Meanwhile, Jason and Jenny were busy self-destructing. I found out from my mom that Jenny's been trying this new thing where she favors Hannah, buying her clothes, taking her out, trying to make Daisy jealous. It's twisted, and I think even Hannah knows what's going on. She's polite about it, but doesn't buy into it. As for Jason, he's still doing what he does best. Nothing. He's been snapping at my mom for turning me against him, which is funny because he did that all on his own. He made some rude comment about my wife to her a few weeks ago, and when I confronted him, he said I should stop talking about his family. I told him I'd talk about his wife because she's cruel, and he's too weak to stop her. That ended that conversation. There's a strange peace in finally being done with him. I'm sad for the kids, but I've realized that you can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. On a side note, Chase reached out to me recently with something unexpected. He said Tiffany, their biological mom, contacted him out of the blue. She's been living in California, apparently sober now, remarried, and trying to make amends. She offered to pay for his flight out to see her. He wasn't sure about it, so I told him I'd go with him. We went last month. It was strange. Tiffany looked older, tired but clear-headed. She cried a lot, said she wished she could take it all back. I didn't say much. I just sat there while she and Jace talked. He forgave her, I think. At least enough to let some of the weight go. Before we left, she handed him paperwork for 3 small CDs she had opened, one for each of the kids. About $15,000 each. It's not life-changing, but it's something. He told me he'll make sure the others get theirs when the time is right. My trip home was quiet. He looked relieved but thoughtful, like something finally clicked into place. As for me, I'm just proud of them. Proud of how resilient they've been. Proud that they still know how to laugh and hope, even after everything they've seen. So that's where things stand. Jason and Jenny are still in their bubble, Daisy's still in her private school, and the older kids are still standing strong. If there's one thing I've learned through all of this, it's that family isn't about blood or names. It's about who shows up, who listens, and who loves you without needing credit. So yeah, go to Maine, love your people, and don't let anyone guilt you into chaos. Happy holidays, everyone. I can't believe how much this escalated, but honestly, good for you for holding your ground. Jason and Jenny sound like the kind of people who confuse control with love. You've done more for those kids than either of them ever has, and it shows. The fact that Jenny tried to weaponize her own daughter's jealousy says everything about who she is. You've shown what family really looks like, and that trip to Maine probably did more healing than any therapy session could. Keep doing what you're doing. Those kids will never forget who fought for them. At least those kids have one saying adult who shows up. That trip to Maine did exactly what their parents refused to do for them. Meanwhile, Jenny's out here drafting her next Facebook post. Speaking of Facebook, have you ever thought about deactivating all of your social media accounts for 1 month straight? Give it a shot. At the end of that month, you might not even want to turn them back on again. Am I the jerk for not splitting my daughter's college fund? I didn't expect to be arguing with my husband about college money. I really didn't. When I think about the last decade of my life, I think about my daughter first. She was only 7 years old when her father passed. It was one of those accidents no one saw coming, the kind that makes you feel like time should have stopped out of respect. It didn't, but something in our home did. Everything felt quieter for a long time, and we moved through life in smaller steps. There was a settlement afterward. I didn't feel lucky to receive it because I would have given every cent back just to have him walk in the front door again. But I also knew that our daughter deserved the chance to grow up without feeling like loss meant limitations. So I put most of the money in a trust for her education. I kept some for our life at the time because we still had to eat and pay the bills and try to enjoy small things. But the trust was for her. I never once thought of it as mine. Years passed and life softened for us. I eventually remarried a kind man. He had 2 kids, a daughter my daughter's age and a younger son. We blended the way most families do. Some awkward moments, some good ones, some small victories like the first time all the kids laughed at the same joke. We raised them together and we didn't track who bought what or who paid for which shoes. We simply lived like a household that made do. Both girls are high school seniors now. My daughter worked herself into the school that her father once attended. She keeps one of his old sweatshirts and she wore it the night she got her admission letter. She read it, covered her face with her hands, and started crying. I just put my hands on her shoulders and stayed there with her. My stepdaughter got into a wonderful program too, one that fits her perfectly. I was happy for her. I've watched her grow up as well. I have no less affection for her because she didn't come from me. But then came the conversation about money. My husband sat across from me at the kitchen table one night. He said that his daughter was going to need loans unless we did something. I said we could help where we could, but yes, she might need some. It's not uncommon. I too had loans. Plenty of people do. He looked at me in a way that made my shoulders tense. He said he thought it would be fair to divide my daughter's trust among all 3 kids. That way, the girls could go to school debt-free and his son would have something set aside for adulthood too. I asked him if he was being serious. He said, of course. They're all siblings and we raised them together. We should treat them equally. I told him that the trust wasn't mine to divide. It came from her father's death, and it's the closest thing she has left of him besides photos and stories. It was meant for her future, not for us to redistribute. He accused me of teaching her to be selfish. He said I was choosing her over the others, and that I must not see his children as mine. I didn't raise my voice. I simply said that the reason my daughter will graduate without debt is because her father died young. His children still have both of their parents. They haven't paid the same price. That's not equality. That's erasing what she lost. He didn't like that answer, and I didn't like the conversation at all. I haven't asked my daughter about any of this. I don't want her to feel that she has to say yes, to sacrifice something so deeply tied to grief just to keep peace in the house. I won't do that to her. So I'm asking if I'm wrong to hold this boundary, because the more I defend her right to keep what was meant for her, the more I feel like I'm being painted as the villain. I don't see myself as one. I see myself as a mother who's trying to do right by the child she had with a man who isn't here to speak for himself. And I can't shake the feeling that I'm the only one in the house remembering that. You're not wrong. Your daughter didn't win the lottery. She lost her father. The money isn't community property. It isn't family savings. It's a piece of him. The fact that your husband thinks she should hand that over to make life easier for his kids tells you exactly how he views the situation. He's not fighting for fairness. He's fighting to avoid confronting the reality that he didn't save enough for his own kids. That's his responsibility, not your daughter's. Your husband didn't just ask for money. He framed your refusal as selfishness. That's manipulative. If he truly saw all 3 kids as equal, he would be looking for ways to support them himself, not demanding that your daughter pay the price. Keep the trust intact. Protect your daughter from being guilted into giving away what came from her loss. Update. My husband tried to speak to my daughter privately about the trust. He waited until I was at work. He told her that sharing would make everyone equal and that the others would resent her if she didn't. He told her it was the right thing to do. She came to me afterwards. She wasn't crying, but I could see how upset she was. I felt something settle inside me, heavy and still, like a door closing. I asked her what she wanted to do. She said she didn't want to give away the money because it felt like one of the last things her father gave her. She asked if that made her wrong. I told her no, and that was that. My marriage didn't survive what happened next. I couldn't stay with someone who went behind my back and tried to pull my daughter into a guilt trip to get access to something that was never his. I didn't yell, I didn't call him names. I just requested separation. It was strangely calm. The divorce was finalized this summer. I moved to a new city, new job, new house. It feels bare and strange for now, but I'm learning how to enjoy quiet again. My daughter is now a junior at her father's school. She plans to go to law school. I think her father would have been proud. I'm proud enough for both of us. I haven't spoken to my former stepdaughter since the separation. I imagine it's complicated for her, and I don't blame her. The younger one texts me sometimes. He's very sweet and sends pictures of the dog. That part hurts in its own soft way, but I am certain of one thing. I protected my daughter, and as her mother, that was my job. This will obviously be my last update, so thanks. Cheers, and be well. You honored your daughter's father when he could no longer do it himself. That's what love is when it's grown up and quiet and steady. You didn't choose your daughter over anyone. You chose not to let someone else diminish her loss to make life more convenient for others. So the daughter kept her father's gift, went to her dream school, and built her own future? And the ex-husband learned that we're all family here doesn't mean your daughter needs to fund my children's tuition. My wife of 4 years is overteaching our kids who are 2 and 4, and everything has to be a learning experience. No, my wife is not actually a teacher. Our kids are now at ages where they're becoming their own little people, and it's amazing. Our older son absolutely loves being a big brother, and the younger one is growing by leaps and bounds. Life is pretty good, except we can't leave the house without her turning it into some grand learning experience or skill-building opportunity. To illustrate, let's start with a recent trip to the grocery store. Our older son, who we'll call John, was walking, and the younger one, Bill, was riding in the cart. We had maybe 10 items to buy, just a quick, simple trip. But my wife started in on John immediately. John, can you count how many items are in the cart? What line should we go in? Do we need to wait our turn? Is it our turn yet? Oh, look, it's our turn. She went on and on and on. Everyone in line was rolling their eyes and giving me sympathetic looks. Sometimes my wife lets Bill, who's only 2, help with chores or meal prep, and it's the same story. Bill, this is a spoon. This is a knife. This is called a ladle, and this is what we do with it. This is a cup. These are noodles. He's 2, for heaven's sake. Every single thing is learned to death. The other night we went for a walk and a little kitten darted across the street. A normal parent might just ask their kid what animal it was, say good job if they said cat or kitten, and move on. John said it was a cat, and my wife said, yes, it's a cat, but it's a baby cat. Do you know what a baby cat is called? Is a cat a mammal or a reptile? I told her I was getting a headache and headed home early. It wasn't a lie, really. Something similar happened at the fair. The kids didn't get to go on a single ride or eat any treats because they were too busy building skills. I can't handle that phrase anymore. It makes me want to scream. When I tell her, honey, just let them have fun. We can talk about what they learned on the way home. She says, but this is such a great opportunity for them to build skills. They won't remember in 2 hours. If I want to get them a simple toy, something purely fun, it's a no-go because it doesn't build skills. Or if it's something like a ball, she'll say it's great for helping them build coordination skills. Every single activity is a learning experience. I've tried talking to her. I've said it's wonderful she wants to give our kids a head start and that I appreciate her focus on teaching them life skills. But not everything needs to be a lesson. They can't even just color random designs on paper. They have to go over primary colors and then do some enrichment activity. After the fair, I snapped. That night, she remarked how much fun the kids had. I'm not proud of it, but I blew my stack. This was after at least 100 conversations, each with a different approach, trying to get through to her. I ended up shouting, no, they did not have fun. They didn't get to ride the Ferris wheel. They got a physics lesson. They didn't get to eat anything fried. They got a nutrition lesson. They didn't get to play games. They got a counting session. They didn't get to try winning a goldfish. They got a zoology lesson. Nothing they did could be considered fun in any universe. Now, according to her, I'm an apathetic father who leaves her to do all the teaching for my own kids. I don't want to deny them educational experiences altogether, but they need to just be kids sometimes too. She thinks she's making learning fun, but nothing is fun anymore. I can't listen to more of these buzzwords like skill building and enrichment repeated 50 times a day without feeling like I'm going to lose my mind. Update. To answer some questions, yes, the kids are very bored. Bill is only 2, so he's not very verbal yet, but John has asked more than once why we can't just do what we came to do. Using the fair as an example, he asked why he couldn't go on the Ferris wheel. My wife ignored him and just kept teaching. That's part of why I was so mad that night. It seems far more about her than about the kids' development. I talk to my sons as much as I can, or at least I try to, but I can hardly say anything to them without her coming in and teaching or suggesting we do something to build skills. It's like she's getting in the way of my relationship with my kids. I didn't realize how much I had bottled up until I saw how others responded to my post. But here's what happened next. It couldn't have been timed better if I'd planned it. So John is 4 and he's in preschool 3 days a week. The very day I posted, I got a call from his teacher. She told me John is a bright boy with a great vocabulary and memory, but what she said next made me tear up and seriously consider a divorce. There have been several instances where John has been left to his own devices during unstructured playtime. They have some structured activities, some semi-structured ones like painting, where they're free to paint whatever they want, and some unstructured time, where they can play with any of the toys in the classroom. Some are learning-oriented, but others are just for fun, like large Lego blocks, stuffed animals, and such. The first time John was presented with watercolor paints and a blank piece of paper, he did nothing. The teacher initially thought it was nerves, as many kids are new to social settings. She also noticed he didn't play much with the other kids. She tried helping him join in their games, but he seemed uninterested. Then she told me about an incident where the class was given metallic crayons and black construction paper. John again did nothing. When she asked him what he'd like to draw, he said he didn't know. She gave him suggestions, like drawing his favorite cartoon character, a pet, or even a space alien, but he still said he didn't know what to draw. After a few more suggestions, John looked at her and said, "I don't know what skill I'm supposed to be learning." I nearly broke down. I can't believe I never pieced it together, but I guess I should have. My boys have no social skills, creativity, or imagination. They don't know that sometimes the purpose of fun is simply to have fun because they've never been allowed to experience that. I hate myself for not seeing it sooner. We're raising walking encyclopedias with no personality, no imagination, and no sense of fun. They know how to count, cook a simple meal, and understand that a washing machine cleans clothes, but they don't know how to relate to kids their own age. They don't understand how to make and learn from mistakes with friends, or that sometimes fun doesn't have to be educational. That night, I had a serious talk with my wife. I didn't let her call the teacher to set her straight. Instead, I told her that I'd made an appointment with a family therapist, and if she wanted to stay married, we were going to both family and couples counseling. No excuses. She needs to work on her parenting skills, and I need to be a more involved dad. I know I've been part of the problem. I grew up as an only child with fairly hands-off parents, and I haven't spent much time around kids or other parents as an adult. Just knowing what's wrong doesn't mean I automatically knew what was right. I also want to go to parenting classes eventually, but for now, we're starting with therapy. I love my wife and want to be with her more than anyone else. I'm going to suggest we divorce anyway. We don't fight. There's been no infidelity. There's nothing we're on. Our kid is happy and healthy. Financially, we're fairly successful. Neither of us has any serious health issues or has gained significant weight. We've been together for 15 years. We're great partners and friends. But she doesn't seem to have any interest in me anymore, and it hurts so much. To start, she doesn't like spending time with me. When we do spend time together, she usually just stares at her phone. I can't compete with Instagram. She treats hugging me like a chore. At one point, she even had it on a daily to-do app. She would hug me, then check it off. It felt bad, like pity hugs, but it wasn't as bad as when she decided even that was too much effort. A kiss is something I have to initiate, or it doesn't happen at all. She seems to have no interest in it, and I rarely try anymore. We never hook up. Of course, it all started after we became parents, but at this point, I don't think that matters. For a while, I convinced myself that if I just did more, she'd finally feel better, have more time and energy to spend with me, and finally come around. But now, I do all the cooking, all the cleaning, and most of the parenting. I'm putting the toddler to bed almost every night, which isn't always easy. And when that's finally done, she's either already gone to bed or she's sitting there staring at her phone, with the kitchen a mess, waiting for me to clean it. I'm exhausted and it's changed nothing. I tried last week to talk about how it felt like she doesn't like me anymore. She said she just needed more time to herself, to be alone. So I said, why don't I take the kid all day Saturday and you just go do your own thing and get that alone time? Then after, we could spend a date night. She was all for it. Fantastic. I had a great day with our toddler. She went out shopping and doing her own thing. I put the kid to bed early because a nap had been skipped and we decided to watch a TV show together. Except she spent the whole time staring at her phone instead. I doubt she could tell me much about what we watched. Occasionally, I'd laugh at something funny and she'd have no idea why. Fine, okay, maybe she's not liking the show. That happens. I made a suggestion we go back to the bedroom, which is how I usually try to get things started. She said yes, and for just a moment I got my hopes up. Maybe I'd finally given enough. Every time I kissed her, she started talking about something that she was thinking about, over and over, new topics, just basically demonstrating again and again that she had no interest in kissing me. For 15 minutes, each time I tried to make conversation. We laughed about stuff, discussed what needed to be done this week, and so on. But any attempt to restart anything romantic was rebuffed again and again with the same tactic. Oh, sure, kissing was fine, but did I mention I bought a really cute shirt? I gave up. I said I needed to go do some chores. She helpfully suggested additional things I needed to do before bed, and then she went to bed and I went and did my chores, had a beer, and cried. But when morning came, I was at peace with it all. There is no person I want to be in a relationship with more than her. She's my best friend, my partner, a great parent, a genuinely funny person. But I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who isn't interested in me romantically. Am I being unfair to say that? My need is not just to hook up. My need is to be with someone who likes kissing me, who wants to be with me, someone who isn't bored of me. I can't change how she feels, but I can decide to change a situation that makes me feel terrible and lonely all the time. So I'm going to ask her to either go back to couples therapy or separate, and it's going to suck. No, there's no chance she's cheating. She's kind of incapable of being anything but brutally honest. It's caused problems in the past. If she were seeing someone else, I honestly think she'd tell me about it, strange as that sounds. Yes, this is my fault as well. I don't communicate enough about how I feel. I put her happiness ahead of my own too much. I'm getting therapy for that and more. I don't think it changes how she feels. It honestly doesn't sound like she's a great friend, partner, or parent. Are you sure you're not still seeing some idealized version of her? Because she sounds kind of awful. Maybe removing the rose-colored glasses would help you move on. OP. 15 years of good times is a lot of momentum to keep a relationship going. There are 1,000 positive things I can say about her, things I love about her, and none of them help explain the thing I need to get off my chest right now. But I've been smitten with her since the day we met. She's fascinating in ways very few women I've ever met are. She's the person I want most to be with. I heard my girlfriend talking about how hot my best friend is. My girlfriend Rachel, who's 30, and I, 30 male, have been together for 5 years with a strong relationship. However, yesterday, I accidentally overheard Rachel and her best friend Emily discussing my best friend Nick's appearance. He's 32 male. The conversation was predominantly Rachel describing Nick as ridiculously hot and charming. Emily asked Rachel why she chose me over Nick, and Rachel replied, laughing, as if Nick would have ever chosen me. I felt hurt, disrespected, and angry. At worst, it sounds like Rachel just wants to hook up with him. At best, she's being disrespectful to our relationship and me. When I confronted her later in private, Rachel apologized but dismissed the conversation as girl talk that I wasn't meant to hear. She claimed I'm overreacting and should focus on our relationship. We argued. I expressed my concerns, saying it's okay to have a crush, but to have a crush on my best friend, who we hang out with almost every day, and then to let her friend undermine our relationship is wrong on so many levels. Rachel accused me of being overly dramatic, controlling her speech, and lacking trust. This happened yesterday. We haven't fought since, but there is unresolved tension between us. Am I the jerk? OP on if his girlfriend was trying to be with Nick. She was gaslighting and manipulating me. She really made me feel like some jerk who's trying to control how she feels with her twisted logic. I know I'm not really explaining it well, but she made me second-guess myself about this entire thing. She has freedom of speech, and so do you. You can reply to her with honesty. Not the jerk. Well, you were clearly the second option, the consolation prize, if it were. What you do with that information is up to you. I'd be rethinking the relationship, and if I stayed in it, I probably wouldn't hang out with Nick as much with the girlfriend there. Also, she knows she messed up, saying it where you could overhear it, and that's why she's upset about you trying to control her speech. You aren't. She's just trying to gaslight you into feeling bad about saying something about it. Update 3 weeks later. After I confronted her about what I heard, she completely shut down. Every time I brought it up, she dismissed my concerns, telling me I was overreacting and being too sensitive. She made me feel like I was the one with the problem, not her. It was gaslighting at its finest. I talked to Nick about what happened. Even he was weirded out by Rachel's behavior, saying she crossed a major boundary and admitted her actions gave him the ick. Hearing that from him made me realize I wasn't overreacting. Rachel's constant dismissal and refusal to acknowledge the hurt she caused finally made me realize I deserved better. I ended our 5-year relationship. Now Rachel's telling our friends that I broke up with her over harmless girl talk. It's infuriating because it's not the truth. But what really got me was when Rachel texted Nick just a few days after we broke up, asking him to go to a movie. Nick told her to never contact him again and blocked her number. I'm still hurting, but I know I made the right decision. Being single is better than being with someone who doesn't respect me, and that's it. Not the jerk. If Nick is telling the truth and he didn't hook up with her, he's a real one. Buy him a beer and invite him over. Hang out and watch a movie. Make the ex jealous. OP. He didn't hook up with her. He's been with his girlfriend since high school, and he's not someone who would cheat. The audacity for her to seriously reach out to Nick right after you guys broke up. Nick sounds like a ride or die homie. OP. He is. Does the ex know about Nick's girlfriend? OP. She knew her. We've hung out together as a group. The fact that she made it seem like she was best friends with Nick's girlfriend while wanting him the entire time is creepy and weird. I'm 35 male. My mother, who's 58, has a new fiance who's 24, and he wants me to call him dad. So here's the background. I'm a 35-year-old guy, and my dad passed when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my 2 younger siblings. Since then, she's been raising us, and over the years, she started dating again. Our family setup is pretty close. My mom and I have houses that back onto each other with a gate in between, so it's normal for me to go over for dinner or to help out. She often does my laundry, and my siblings and I have dinner at her place every other Friday night or so. Over time, her boyfriends have been getting progressively younger. This never bothered us because we just want her to be happy. She's been upfront about wanting to remarry, and we've always been supportive. Her latest guy, let's call him Phil, is by far the most serious. They started dating around last June, and he proposed at the beginning of autumn. They're planning to get married next summer, and while my siblings and I were surprised at first, we're happy for her. Phil's a nice guy, and they seem to genuinely love each other. But here's where things start to get strange. This weekend, Phil calls me and asks if I could come over to their place. I figured he needed help with some do-it-yourself project, so I said sure, and after work I went over. When I got there, he called me Sport and said we needed to have a talk. I should mention he's got a habit of calling me and my brother names like Sport, Kid, Scout, Little Buddy, or even Red and Blue randomly. My brother is 30, by the way. Once he even called my sister Princess, but she shut that down pretty quickly. So he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father and raise a son of his own, then drops the bombshell. Now, I know I can never replace your father, but it would mean the world to me if you would call me Dad. I couldn't help it. I let out a little snicker. But then I realized he was serious. He looked like he was about to cry, and he didn't drop it. He went on about how being a man to him means providing for and protecting his family, and he wanted me and my siblings to be part of that family. He repeated that he didn't want to replace my dad, but that he was ready to step up as my dad. Meanwhile, I'm sitting here thinking, dude, I'm a decade older than you. I don't need a dad, let alone someone I barely know to be one. Still, I tried to stay polite and asked if he really meant it. He started getting even more emotional, talking about how he wanted to go on camping trips with me or take me to a baseball game, even though I don't like baseball, and how he had joined the Lions Club this year and wanted me to join as his son. To make it weirder, I'm already a Shriner, so this whole speech about charity and manly service wasn't the big deal he seemed to think it was. Eventually, I told him that this was getting a bit too weird and that I was going home. He looked really upset, but I left anyway. Later, I called my brother, who said the whole thing sounded really weird. The next day, my mom called me. She said that Phil was very upset and even a bit depressed. I told her that if he was embarrassed, there was no need to be. I understood he was just excited about the wedding and we could laugh this off as a funny story later on. But she said he wasn't upset about being embarrassed. He was hurt because he had poured his heart out and felt that I rejected him. She admitted it was a bit kooky, but explained that this was his way of proving to himself that he's a man. I got a little heated and told her it's not my job to validate his masculinity and that calling me son doesn't make him a man. It just made him look a bit off. She didn't appreciate that, and we ended the call on a tense note. She called back 10 minutes later, and we both apologized. She then pleaded with me to just go along with it until they could have kids of their own. Apparently, they're planning to try IVF because she's not ready to give up on being a mom. While I have my own reservations about that idea, I decided to leave it alone. I've thought about it, and I know I'm not going to call him Dad. I had a dad, and he's the only dad I'll ever need or want. But I still want to find a way to tell Phil and my mom that without causing a major rift. We're all close, and with them living so nearby, I don't want this to cause ongoing tension. Any advice on how to let them down gently? Edit. I showed my brother this post, and he laughed so hard he nearly choked. He suggested we start calling Phil Dr. Phil and switch his nicknames for us, calling each other Red and Blue. Edit 2. For those wondering, Phil has no access to my mom's money or assets. She rents her place, which came furnished, and she doesn't have any significant financial resources. So, as far as we can tell, there's no financial motive here. Your mom is really weird for dating this clearly mentally underdeveloped guy. Imagine you own a house that's fully paid off and your daughter's demanding to buy it from you for a fraction of what it's worth. That's exactly what happens in our next story. It just popped up on your screen. Give it a tap and come have a listen. You won't believe what happens next.